back in the studio with Big Hoop and another episode of Hanging with the Hoopers. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed, liked, shared, commented. And I just want to encourage you, click subscribe and click that notification bell. We're dropping these podcasts each week because why? We all want to grow as leaders. We are here to inspire thought, spark thought, inspire action to take and grow as leaders. So we are excited. Big Hoop. Man, here we are.
Well, here we are. And I just have to add to that. We sharpen ourselves every single time we do this as well. And we love coming together, discussing these ideas. Stay tuned. Next coming episodes, we're bringing some guests on, some very special guests. It's happening, and we're very excited about that. And thank you guys for the topics you've shared with us so far.
Yes.
It means the world. We're excited to begin unpacking those as we continue this series, and even with some of our guests, talk about some of those topics.
So one of the topics today is being a go-giver.
That's right.
It's a mindset that will literally transform our lives as leaders and our businesses. But before we unpack the go-giver mindset, Big Hoop has a message from one of our sponsors.
That's right. So we got to give a shout out to our amazing sponsor, Energy for Sales. Listen, do you ever feel lost in a crowd of sales reps?
Yes.
I do at times. It's easy to get distracted by all the noise that comes into our inbox, right? You have leads. These promos saying there's an easy button out there or there's some new marketing gimmick. But what you probably need is to take a step back, tap into your energy, who you are and how you sell. You do not need gimmicks. You need focus, a plan, and consistent, proactive, accountable execution of that plan. This is where Energy for Sales comes in. It equips you with the sales skills to give you the confidence and simplify your process, which will focus your energy into the metrics that actually matter. You can connect with them online at energyforsalesteams.com. That's energy, the number 4, salesteams.com.
Boom.
All right, let's get into it today.
Go Giver, John Berg. What a book. In fact, there's that line that says readers are leaders. And so just encourage everybody, scoop up one of those books on your shelf. Maybe you have 5 or 6 that people have recommended and you picked up and purchased, and we're all busy, don't have time. Like my friend Andy Bailey says, we all have time to read a page or 2 a day.
That's right.
So readers are leaders. I will tell you, when I read The Go-Giver, it changed my life. Because so often we're taught, and sometimes it's not as much taught as it's just it's in us when somebody gives us something, to want to give something back, to reciprocate. It's one of the deepest human emotions, like reciprocity. It's built into everything in the universe. So sometimes it's just we pick it up, and when we give something, because when we get something we want to give, when we give something, oftentimes we expect something's going to come back in return.
Yeah.
The go-giver flips that on its head and says, be 100% in it for the give. And so as leaders, we want to unpack today being 100% in it for the give. Being a go-giver to your team. Being a go-giver to those managers, those employees, those referral partners, those suppliers. And I'll tell you a quick story of somebody who did it so very well. My first employer is Jeff. Jeff handed me a book one day. He's 19-year-old, just starting out. I'm the admin to the president of the company, kind of the gopher. Admin to the president sounded so much better. Just the gopher.
Pick up the coffee, take the FedEx envelopes.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was crazy. But he handed me a book one day, and it was The Linchpin by Seth Godin. And I read that book, and it literally was, I said, wow. It was all about being the linchpin, going the extra mile, being that. And I remember saying, wow, if I can just do half of this. And I did. I started implementing the stuff. Not only did my contribution become so much better, but in just the way that I thought and contributed. And Seth's all about the art we give, the art we bring, being ourselves. And I started bringing more of my authentic self. But I wanted the next book, and he handed me the next book, John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
I hope you guys are all taking notes.
And I read, great point, Andrew. We'll put those links to these books in the show notes for you. But as Jeff was giving, being a go-giver, he wasn't asking for, hey, give me a book report, or he didn't. I think he just wanted to simply invest in a young guy, hardworking young guy's future. Right. I mean, he told me that many, many times. He got interested in my dreams and goals. I wanted to go back to school. I was a non-trad. He helped me do that. He gave me tips. His daughters at the time, he was putting them 18, 19, that he was helping them get into college. Here I am, a non-trad student. I've been in the workforce for a little while, and he helped me get there. So as a leader, are we giving to get something back, or are we giving for the 100% pure benefit of our team? It's a powerful concept. What's something that sparked a trigger while we were talking?
It's a very powerful concept, and I don't know what I'm thinking of. Frankly, I don't know if you can force this. You know, it's I don't know if it's something you can learn or if it's something you have to have, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But at the end of the day, there's an attitude about somebody who is a go-giver. I've worked with many people similar to Jeff, who you worked with, who were truly a servant leader, and they would take the shirt off their back and give it to you. They had your back no matter what. And they would do everything they could in their power to help you advance your position, advance your career, and they didn't expect anything in return. Yeah. So something that comes to mind a little bit, there's probably more barometers of this. Do you ask for things in return? Do you bring it up occasionally? I know something that I learned from, and I would say kind of jokingly to my team members, but I would make schedules. And anybody out there who makes schedules for your team or anything like that, you have schedules, right? Somebody has a Saturday off.
Yeah.
So maybe, they like to take that long weekend, so you make their day off the previous week Friday.
Right.
Instead of a Wednesday or Thursday, right? And you just go the extra mile and give them a little extra pleasure.
Right.
I would catch myself at times kind of joking with him, hey, what a good boss. I'm taking care of you, right? So to me, that's like, okay, I was joking, but I could see how that could be perceived as like...
Like a motivate, you're a motive.
Almost like, it's kind of like there's a motive behind it. Because, so I think about that a little bit. And
but bro, let's be honest, right? We're not all Santa Claus. No. I think all of us probably have some level of motive. Like you want to help an employee be a better employee. And you know that, maybe you want to help them as a better person, but as a manager, they'll become a better employee.
Sure.
There's always going to be some motive. I love that you said barometer. Am I 90%, 10%, 90% for them, 10% for me? Am I 50-50 right down the line? Is it 90 for me, 10 for them? I think you have to just be honest with gauge yourself.
I agree.
But I think we're all human.
So I think something that how I translate it a little bit is, am I doing the next thing that I know I need to be doing for this person on my team, or that I need to be doing for this person in my life?
Mm.
And if I'm controlling that next thing that I committed to doing, to me, that's giving. I'm not going back and saying, hey, we see this sometimes in sales.
Right.
Hey, we talked about me doing this for you, but you need to start, and I need to start seeing this back from you first. Blah, blah. Don't get me wrong. There's an appropriate time and place to invest.
Yes.
Without
I love that you brought that up.
You got to be careful.
I love that you brought that up.
So
yes,
what I'm saying there is like, go do the next thing in order. And when people see you delivering on your commitments and you go above and beyond and you're exceeding what you said you would deliver on, it will it'll make you feel great inside because you're not sitting there with some big expectation. But it's kind of the motive there is like, I know if I deliver and be a giver to all those around me, I will be taken care of.
Yes.
Just the law of reciprocity.
Yes.
I always butcher that word. So kind of the law of reciprocity.
Yes.
So, that's the mentality to live by. And it's not that you're like, I'm going to go do this because I expect this to return. It's just like, what? This is the next thing I need to do for that person because I care. If it results in something great, if it doesn't, great. That's not why I'm doing this. So you got to kind of make that conscious choice. But then over time, where's the barometer of like measuring how often you do these types of things, right? So that's kind of what it brings up inside of me.
Yes. So I think, I love that you brought up that there's a time and a place to ask. Because in sales coaching, we always talk about asking for the business.
Of course.
And so people are like, well, if I'm a 100% go-giver, then I must never have to ask for the business. And then it's scotch-free. I think you have to look at this in two ways. There's the contract and there's the gift.
Right.
Okay? Contract. Let's talk about employees for a second. An employee, what is their contract? Are they a telecommuter? Mm-hmm. Are they in office? Are they, what does the contract look like? Are they 40 hours a week? Are they part-time, full-time? Like, you have a contract. So if you're to give a day off, right? Just say, hey, I know you're going through a rough patch, whatever. Just take a personal day. You know what? Make it up, whatever, right? Right? That's a contract. We're not saying I'm going to give you something. Right? Salespeople do this all the time. Hey, can the engineers come on the road with me? Or can this tech person get on and do a seminar or training? Or we're asking for company resources to give.
Yep.
And we're not ever going back and asking and saying, hey, we've provided all this value. Like, can you level up your commitment to us in wallet share? Right. So again, contract. You're using company resources. That's part of an agreement. That's part of a SLA, or that's part of a. So that don't get me. There's a contract. There's a give and a take.
Yeah.
But the gift, that's the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
In a relationship, there's a contract. In a husband and wife situation, I'm going to provide, and this, that, and the other. There's givens. There's some explicit and there's some implicit roles implied. That's contractual, but there's also the second mile. There's the gift, and I think that's the thing is a lot of us don't even go into that completely different silo of the extra mile and explore that. The book, nothing in my contract said I needed a book. In fact, he put Linchpin, like 100 copies on the shelf, and every customer who came through gave them the Linchpin. Then another shipment of books, and was handed. We had a whole book club built around. Every employee got a book. It was like Oprah. Everybody gets a book. Everybody gets a book. I mean, that was his extra. That was the extra mile. Then when you get into that, there's a third silo. It's called the sacrifice. And this is where relationships, and this is where, you're taking the shirt off your back for somebody. You're making the trek across the country to go help somebody. You're going on LinkedIn without anyone asking you and leaving a recommendation. You're writing that letter of referral for someone who just got laid off, and you're just torn up about it. Whatever that is. There's the contract, there's the gift, and then there's the sacrifice. So I love that you brought that up, because every salesperson listening who thought, I'm just going to give the company resources and never have to ask for business again.
Yeah.
Absolutely
like,
not.
Go do the next best thing. I think in sales, the big foible there is you have people that kind of find the excuse of not having to ask for stuff.
Right.
Because they're scared to ask for stuff.
Right.
If you're, you know who you are and overcome that. You work on it, right? And at the end of the day, when you do go above and beyond and you find extra ways to add value, extra ways to do things, right?
Yeah.
Out of the goodness of your heart, just go do that. And you'll be surprised over time that you reap the reward of being a good person, having that warmth and that love from people around you just from doing that. And I haven't always been the best at that, right? I'm a little more like compliance driven and step driven. Right. You definitely exhibit a lot of those gift tendencies, and you've always been somebody that's inspired me to do more with that. But at the end of the day, it's such a powerful concept because it's all about being selfless. If you've ever gone and volunteered at a homeless shelter, if you've ever gone and spent time with, veterans who've lost a leg or an arm and you've helped rehabilitate them, if you've ever gone to the SCPA and spent time with pets that are about to get euthanized and that's what you're passionate about. Or maybe you've spent time with you love nature and you spend time rehabilitating parks and land and plants and the things around us that are living. Whatever speaks to you, if you go give in that regard, you all know how good it feels.
Yes.
And it's kind of like we know how good it feels, yet we find like we don't do it enough.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the blessing comes when you go do.
Yeah.
So this encourages me. Like every time we talk, we sharpen each other.
Right.
We mentioned that. Like we sharpen every single time. And so it's like, what are those things that you used to do a lot of? Right. A good colleague of mine, and we still stay in touch, maybe professionally through LinkedIn. But his name is Dan Perez out in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and that's where I started my banking career. And he was the ultimate go-giver dude. I mean, shirt off his back. When I was going through stuff in my life, he was there for me. But he was also so engaged in the community.
Wow.
And he was consistent with it.
Yes.
So I thought when I was with him, this is a funny dynamic. You'll be with some people, right, and you kind of do what they do with them, right? So we had a relationship.
Right. Yeah.
So I was going out and volunteering. So I'm thinking I'm great at volunteerism, but I was just playing off of him.
Hey,
right?
And that's nothing wrong with that. To learn good habits in your life.
100%.
That's why you got to level up by leveling up your turf.
Yeah.
Level up your associations, guys. You level up your life.
You're going to be like who you're around. So then when I stepped away from that and moved to California, I realized that, man, this isn't just happening like it used to. Right? It wasn't yet in my DNA. So then I got around another guy out there named James Fazuhi. James, if you're listening to this, you're amazing. And this guy, we served together on, I don't even know what we called it, the volunteer leadership committees for JP Morgan together in the Bay Area. So I led the South Bay stuff, he did the North Bay, but he was another person that really instilled that in me.
Yeah.
And then getting out to Philadelphia, it actually had become more of my DNA where I was going and initiating some of those key partnerships that could just be a giver to those in need around. So I know we're not talking necessarily about all the community involvement. And we've had an episode where
and
we talked about
there's a good
that.
one about to drop. Yes.
Yeah. But think about those people around you in the work environment that you could be a giver to without expectation of return.
Yes.
And employee to employee here too. This isn't just leader to employee.
Yes.
Like
so rich.
do you notice those around you who might be struggling or dealing with something? And most of the time, you have a better relationship with those you work with, not those who you report to.
Right.
And so are you finding opportunities within those environments to be a giver, a thoughtful gift, a handwritten note? Maybe, I had a boss up in Pennsylvania, and a couple times a year, he would take a video just basically shouting out how great we were, the managers who worked for him, and he would take and text that to our whole family.
Wow.
Right? Like anyone he knew would say, like, send this to your family, I'm sending this to you, I want to tell you about Andrew, I want to tell you about Joseph, I want to tell you about so-and-so.
Yeah.
This is why they're amazing for the team.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Right.
But guess what that did for everybody in the equation?
Yeah.
I had another boss, in meetings we would do once a quarter, he would say, I want all you to step out of this meeting before we start. I want you to take out your phone, and I want you to go call your significant other or that person in your life that helps you every single week, every day, and thank them for allowing you to do what you are able to do.
Wow.
Right? And so we'd all step out. I remember the first time I was like, am I really going to call this person? And I did it, and I called them. Yeah. And it was literally are you seriously just calling me to thank me right now? And I said, yeah. And it felt so good.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So it's kind of those little things that people do and teach that are just so incredibly amazing to me. That's why I said there's no recipe for it. There's no you can't go out and just create it. It just has to either come naturally or you have to be influenced by people doing stuff.
that you said you can absolutely put a consistency in place for it.
Sure. Yeah.
So just like showing up to the gym doesn't naturally happen, but you did get your butt in your car and go do it.
Right.
You can put your butt in your car and go show up for something in your community. There's volunteers needed. They're needed.
Oh, always.
You can look on a community site how to volunteer. You can call the Chamber of Commerce. They can plug you into plenty of opportunities. And we did the whole podcast on this. But in our business environments, there's the contract and then there's the gift. And we don't explore that avenue, I don't think, as much as we could. Mm-hmm. The gift is the different stuff, right? And I just mentioned books. That was just one thing. Books. But there's a meal that somebody needs delivered. There's something that somebody, you know what? What about, hey, we're going to pay a babysitter. You've been crushing it. You need to go out and just spend probably some good quality time with your significant other. The company's just going to pay for a babysitter for you. I mean, that would blow somebody's mind. Isn't in the contract anywhere, but those little things completely, there's nothing the employee's going to do. Listen, do not check your phone this evening. Do not answer an email. It's all about your significant other and you. There's nothing in it for you then, right? So making sure that you have 100%, those opportunities for 100% gift, 100% give. And then leveling up sometimes and just do the sacrifice. I think the sacrifice, you mentioned it. Sometimes that's employee to employee. Sometimes that's staying over an extra hour. You're giving up of your time just to say, hey, I've noticed you've been struggling with this, or you're backlogged here, or this, or that, and the other. Can I help? I used to do this. Believe it or not, that was my role. Let me help. That's sacrifice. That's sacrificial, and that's beautiful. Let me tell you a quick story that happened for me, because I'm in the sales role. You spend everything, right? It's client relationships. I had a good friend whose son was a compadre of mine. I was coaching him, and COVID took him. Right, it was tragic. I'm headed over to his funeral, and of course, all my mileage is expense. Right, I'm in sales. I'm a relationship building. All my mileage, and I never forget. I was plugging in my mileage for that trip just to put this on the expense report to my assistant. So I was shooting the email with the total mileage. And I'll never forget what triggered inside of me. This little feeling came over me. I mean, just every trip, I was just such in the habit of sending that mileage out. And I never forget, I started typing it, and then I just had this evil feeling creep in to think, no, this trip is my gift. Mm-hmm. Backspace, delete, X, delete draft. Done. End of story. I'm not expensing that one, right? So even, that's such a tiny little
job catching yourself.
But my own heart caught it. But I'm just saying, it's easy to just go ahead and expense it. Sometimes just in your own heart. Nobody had to know about that one. Of course, here's a couple years later, I'm sharing it, but not for any other reason. Just to say, there are times just to eat it. There are times just to say, this one's on me. You did that recently. You Venmo'd somebody some money. I won't embarrass the person's name, and you just said, this one's on me. I said, well, go ahead and expense that one. No, this one's on me. And I was just like blown away by that. I said, wow. So, recognizing people, the extra effort, the second mile they did, and just blessing them or just saying, go out and do this. Live in the go-giver mentality. I know we've gone over our standard time on this podcast, but guys, this concept, I don't think we can dive into enough.
It's explore it. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm realizing that this is something I need to work on more. And
me too, man.
This is ever evolving. This is something just to kind of start wrapping your head around and, look for those ways that you can be a blessing to others, or you can just be a good human to those around you.
Before we wrap up, I just got a goosebumps moment as you're talking. Look for ways just to be a good human. So back to Jeff. We started with Jeff. I'll end with Jeff. And Jeff, if you're listening, man, I'm about to tear up with the story.
You're going to text him this one.
I will. I love trips. I love traveling. And when I take a trip, I like running in different places. I love going downtowns and running and exploring. My trips are usually pretty booked. They go fast, they happen fast, and I don't have a lot of time on trips. I'll never forget every time Jeff would take a trip somewhere. He didn't take a ton of trips. So when he went somewhere, out to a retreat, an E&O mastermind session or whatever, he would have his assistant get 50 or however many cards he wanted to send out to the employees, but he would get a card and have them all addressed to that out, and then he would go out. They would all be pre-addressed and labeled, but he would go out in person with a Sharpie. He did not have great handwriting, but he would write a note with one of the core values that I exemplified, or my employee, my coworker. Everybody got a letter. We all knew it because in the huddles, when he would come back, we're like, hey, thank you, Jeff, for the card. And then half the team who didn't get the card yet, they're like looking around like, ooh, I didn't get a card. And then when the next day, it's like, oh yeah, I got my card. Thanks, Jeff, for my card. And it kind of became almost an expectation, but it was cool. And I didn't appreciate it as much until I really started to travel in earnest, and I realized how much time commitment that took him on his trips. To sit in a hotel room and literally handwrite. He didn't do a lot of handwritten notes, but his trip was like his consistency.
Sure.
To sit down. He was away from the company. Yeah. He was away from managing, and he would just sit down and envision that person and what core value they lived out. And I still, to this day, I still have one of his cards. I laminated it. It's still in my desk drawer.
Man. Dude, I'm inspired on this one, and I can only imagine that you all are too. So go out there, be a go-giver.
Hashtag.
This has been a fun one.
Go-giver.
Thanks again for the support. You said not to say this, but I'm going to say it because I've always wanted to say it on YouTube. Go smash that subscribe button.
Smash it.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. And thanks again to our sponsor, Energy for Sales.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.